Hello friends and welcome back into the Cowboys Report. I am your host Tom Downey and we're going to do something a little bit different to kick off today's show. Instead of news and rumors or whatever, let's take a look at the Madden 20 rookie ratings for the Cowboys. Full team not announced yet, but the first year players are, so we'll take you down from highest rated down to lowest rated. Only 10 players in total, by the way, made it for the Cowboys. First up, and this really shouldn't be a surprise here, Trysten Hill is the highest-rated Cowboy rookie, 72 overall. That is 6th among rookie defense tackles. Now, that doesn't include players like Jeffrey Simmons, who are listed as a 3-4 defensive end, so they don't count as a defensive tackle, but it's pretty darn close there. And in the end, 72 feels like a pretty fair rating for me for Trysten Hill. It's not the highest rated guy, of course, among defensive tackles, but he was a late round 2 pick. That's about where Trysten Hill is supposed to be. So I'm sure there will be comments of it's not high enough for every single Cowboys player. Sometimes that's true, but for Trysten Hill, this feels about right for me. 72 overall, 6th among DTs. He is behind Quinnen Williams of the Jets. Well, duh. Behind Ed Oliver, of course. Dexter Lawrence ahead of Christian Wilkins. That doesn't actually make any sense to me at all. Wilkins was the better player at Clemson. And then Jerry Tillery, a 74 overall. So Hill checks in at 6th among DTs, and he will definitely compete for playing time this year with the Dallas Cowboys. Stuck at least 4 now, behind some combination of Tyrone Crawford, Antoine Woods, Malik Collins, and maybe Christian Covington if you want to count him in there in terms of the nose tackles. That's kind of more of his role, less so than a full-on pass rushing defense tackle, although he can rush the passer a little bit there. So question for everyone watching here, and I'll watch the chat and give some shout-outs here. Do you guys play Madden? Type Y for yes, type N for no. And yes, I am aware of this already. Madden isn't that good anymore. It's the same old thing every single game. Food Review says yes. Diehard Cowboys fan says yes. Daniel, Spidey, Manuel all say yes. Swiss Cheese says yes. Shocker here. Madden Beast also says yes. I never would have guessed that one there. Mostly yeses here flowing in, but a couple of N's as well. You can DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney if you have a PS4. Maybe we'll swap PSN names there. Moving on to the second highest rated Cowboy player. Yeah, it's actually Tony Pollard, 68 overall, which I know isn't very high, but Pollard A, tied for 10th among first-year backs, and not only that, he is actually the fastest rookie running back in the game, which I wouldn't have guessed. I would have assumed it was 4.40 Justice Hill. No, Tony Pollard actually is the fastest rookie running back, of course. He's like, I think, 7th overall in speed because there are some receivers and DBs there. Now, the running backs who are rated ahead of Tony Pollard: David Montgomery, Justice Hill, Damian Harris, Benny Snell, Alexander Madison. All players who were drafted ahead of Tony Pollard, which that just makes sense, you know? So for the Cowboys to have the fastest rated rookie running back in the game, that's nice, and hopefully the Cowboys know how to use that because historically speaking, they haven't really. They did use Lance Dunbar pretty well, but beyond that, the backup running backs, other speedy players, Tavon Austin, haven't really been utilized in the way that certain members of the Cowboys front office, Stephen Jones, have said they were going to. So question for everyone watching, who will be the Rookie of the Year for the Cowboys? 3 guys kind of make the most sense to me here. Trysten Hill, Tony Pollard, and Connor McGovern. Yes, we'll get to McGovern later on there. I will lean towards Trysten Hill, but I do think there are some strong arguments to be made for Tony Pollard if the Cowboys are actually going to use him in the way they claim that they will. Now, Food Reviewed says Michael Jackson. He's actually next up here, 66th overall. That is tied for 17th among first-year cornerbacks. I don't think that's too unfair. I think it borders a little bit on the low side. I think 67 would have made a little bit more sense. At the same time, I don't know how much Jackson's really going to play this year. The Cowboys have a lot of good cornerbacks already. They have Anthony Brown. They have Byron Jones. They have Chidobe Awuzie. They have everyone's favorite Jordan Lewis. So that leaves Jackson as the number 4 corner. Yes, Lewis is a nickel guy, but he's the next man up if one of those first 3 go down. So Jackson will make an impact, just might be more so on special teams than it's going to be as all of a sudden becoming a top 25 cornerback in the NFL. Move on to one of the biggest surprises, Connor McGovern. Only a 64 overall. That is tied for 6th among rookie offensive guards. Now, in a bubble, okay, whatever, 64, that's weird. He's a third-round pick. Why is he behind a fifth-rounder in Michael Jackson? And then beyond that, there are offensive guards who were drafted after him that have the same rating or better. Drew Samia is a 67 overall. He was a fourth-round pick. Phil Haynes, also a fourth-round pick. He's 65. Drew Forbes, who no one knew when we brought him up on the live NFL draft coverage because no one ever heard of him, is a sixth-round pick who's also 64 overall. I'm a little confused as to what the Madden rating czars are doing when you're ranking a third-round pick the same as a sixth-round pick. Then again, if we want to make fun of the Giants, Daniel Jones has a worse rating than Tyree Jackson in Madden, which also makes absolutely zero sense because one's an undrafted free agent, one was a sixth overall pick. Come on there. Now, for McGovern, he will compete at left guard, along with Xavier Su'a-Filo, and of course with the incumbent Connor Williams. And depending on what the Cowboys want to do with Sewell, I do think there is a scenario where McGovern earns a starting role. Now, one thing I noticed from last year playing Madden, because I actually bought the game for the first time in a while, the backup interior offensive linemen weren't rated very highly because Joe Looney was pretty lowly rated throughout the season, which I never fully understood. All right, folks, do you like the Cowboys Report? I assume you do. You're watching right now. And we also know that a lot of you watch who aren't actually subscribed. So instead of wondering when the next video is going to be up, just subscribe and turn on notifications. The link right there is below if you're watching on Facebook, youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. But just hit the big red button if you're watching on YouTube. That's going to be a lot easier. Some more 64 overalls. Next up, Joe Jackson, the defensive end, tied for 17th among first-year defensive ends. Now, he's not guaranteed a roster spot. It's just really weird to me to see Jackson, who might not make the roster, and McGovern, who will, as the same overall rating. That doesn't really quite connect for me. Now, I do think 64 is probably about right for Joe Jackson, and I really have more issue with the McGovern rating more than anything. But just take note that he is in a battle for his roster spot because you have DeMarcus Lawrence, you have Quinn. Crawford plays somewhere on that defensive line in Kiro unless he gets a surprise cut. There's still Taco Charlton, still Dorrance Armstrong. Kerry Hyder's made some nice moves in terms of OTAs and minicamp. And then, yeah, we'll get to Jalen Jelks here in a little bit in terms of his overall rating, but it's not going to be that high. Spoiler alert. All right, next up, Mike Weber, who is also fighting for his roster spot. A 7th-round pick, 64 overall, tied for 21st among first-year backs. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, he has the same rating as some backs drafted before him. He has the same overall rating as Jordan Scarlett, taking a full 2 rounds before Mike Weber was. So I guess that's maybe it was too high of a rating. Maybe a 63 would have been more realistic there for Weber. Of course, he is behind Tony Pollard. And Weber and Jackson right now are battling for that number 3 spot. Now, I mentioned it earlier. We don't know the actual ratings for the rest of the players. Like Zeke, he better be near 99, by the way, just so we're clear. Better be the highest rated running back in the NFL, though. Why do I think it's going to be Saquon Barkley? Because it's Madden. Anyway, Weber, Jackson, I'm curious to see what rating Jackson ends up getting in the end. All right, folks. Do you want to like betting on football? I assume you guys do because it's easy. Just bet on the Cowboys every week and you'll probably win money, right? So to do that, head over to chatsports.com/Cowboys and use promo code GOCowboys for a 100% bonus. So you put down $50, they're going to give you an extra $50 for free. Maybe bet on the Cowboys from the Super Bowl, and then when they do win, you're feeling pretty good about the victory and all that extra money you made. Next up on the Madden rookie ratings, it's actually our first undrafted free agent, Daniel Wise, a 62 overall. And for these last couple, I kind of feel like Madden just borrowed my big board here because I had a pretty high grade on Daniel Wise, and here he checks in. Now, he is tied for last among rookie defensive tackles, but I'll make note, not every player makes it. Even though EA Sports may claim if it's in the game, it's in the game, it's actually not the case. Several Cowboys UDFAs, we'll break down some of the ones here in a second, didn't make the cut, at least as of right now. Of course, they'll do updates because welcome to gaming in the modern day. So Wise, a 62 overall. I like him, but it's a tough and tricky path to that roster. Crawford, Woods, Collins, Hill, they're all pretty safe. I think Covington's really safe, potentially. Can he beat out Daniel Ross? Do they carry 6 DTs? I'm not sure. That's the tricky part for me. Now, the Cowboys only had 2 UDFAs so far released by Madden in terms of the first initial roster. So the ones who didn't make it, the notable ones, not everyone, just the notable ones, everyone's favorite UDFA, the next greatest receiver, Jon'Vea Johnson, didn't make it. Mitch Hyatt also didn't make it. That's the one that really surprises me, and you'll see why in a little bit, hint, hint. Chris Westry also didn't make it. There's no Ricky Walker as of right now. And of course, Larry Allen, he didn't end up making it either. So question for everyone watching, which UDFA is most likely to make the Cowboys roster? Let me know in the comments section. I lean towards Mitch Hyatt. I think the Cowboys like him. They guaranteed him the most signing bonus there. Of course, we'll see how he looks in training camp and in the preseason. That's probably more important there. That's what Love My Boy says. Val Castillo says that as well. Matt S. Food Review says Cody McElroy. Not a UDFA, though. Just a free agent signing, although I do like that idea there. Food Review. All right, more rookie ratings. Jalen Jelks, 61 overall. That's bottom 4 among rookie defensive ends, which isn't that great. I had Wise ranked above Jalen Jelks on my personal board, but I am surprised that he is below Wise in the actual Madden rankings because, look, the single best indicator of NFL success is draft position. That's just how it works. But Jelks ends up being behind Wise. Then again, I don't know if he's going to make this roster. Practice squad, yes, I think that makes a lot of sense there. But Jelks, when you legitimately go 9 deep if you include Tyrone Crawford, he's your 9th man. That's tough. All right, here's the one that's going to upset everybody. Donovan Wilson is a 60 overall. Yeah, 60. That is second to last among all rookie safeties. Heck, there were a few UDFAs, a.k.a. undrafted free agents, and players taken before Wilson that actually have higher ratings. Little shade, I think, though, there towards Donovan Wilson. Of course, I still think he's more of a depth special teams guy, but maybe he proves us all wrong. As of right now, he is at best 3rd on the safety depth chart, if you don't even include Xavier Woods to begin with. Jeff Heath, Iloka are in front of him. Kevon Frazier is a similar type of player to Wilson, maybe not quite the same athlete, but Frazier's banged up, so he gave the nod to Wilson there on the Cowboys' strong safety depth chart. So who was the most underrated Cowboys first-year player? I'm going to go with Connor McGovern. I think you can make an argument for Donovan Wilson and some others there, but McGovern's a 64 and is behind players drafted around after him and the same as a 6th-round pick. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like it's a big-name 6th-round pick. It was Drew Forbes who played at a small school. That was the weird one to me. Last rookie rating here, that is Brandon Knight. That's right, Knight made it over Mitch Hyatt. I was kind of surprised by that, to be frank. Now, he is tied for last among rookie offensive tackles. There is a limit within that in terms of the number of players that they'll add for each team because it's EA Sports. But he is actually tied for the 5th lowest rated rookie in the game, which is pretty crazy to me to think about, that he's that low at 53 overall. Also beat out Mitch Hyatt, which I don't think is what I would have done if I were in charge of Madden. And it kind of surprises me because, look, these are not pro scouts making the Madden ratings there. I would figure they would have found a way to include a 2-time All-American in Hyatt over Brandon Knight. Hyatt far more well-known than Knight. But in terms of the lowest Madden ratings, here are the bottom 5 players. Knight's 5th. Kyle Shermer, you all know his dad, Pat, 52 overall. Vetus, I'm not even going to try his last name there for the Rams. David Blow is a 48 overall. And Austin Cutting is a tight end. And as I'm sure you guys play overall, if you know LP, Austin Cutting is a 38 overall. Let's recap then those Madden 20 rookie ratings. Trysten Hill, 72 overall. Tony Pollard, 68. Michael Jackson, 66. Connor McGovern, Joe Jackson, and Mike Weber are all a 64 overall. Daniel Wise, the undrafted free agent, is actually a 62 overall. 7th-round pick, Jalen Jelks. He's a 61. Strong safety, Donovan Wilson's a 60. And then Brandon Knight, the lowest rated Cowboy player actually in the game among first-year players, is a 53 overall. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.